Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Sebring. After our impromptu week off 1 week ago, we are now at round 3 of the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League in Season 11. After the first couple of rounds, we've very much settled into this championship at which Ken Copeland has been rather dominating. Time to see whether a new name can maybe put themselves up towards the top, because at the moment, Ken Copeland is not in the session as practice draws to a close. We may well get a new winner for the first time this season. It's myself, Ewan O'Leary, and Darragh Thacker alongside me, with Romero Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras as always. Good to be back, Darragh, after our week off. On to the bumps of Sebring we go, and it looks like it might be a closer race for the win this week than it has been on those two previous occasions.
Yeah, Sebring, a track that drivers will know very well indeed, and it's also a good track for this kind of racing and for this style that we're going to see over the course of the entire season. And Daytona and Laguna Seca, very particular, very individual circuit. Sebring, I feel like, has a little bit more of the characteristics that we see at many other racetracks, and even with the bumps, I think it's going to be a good one to really get our teeth back into the championship again.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at, for the first time this season, at some championship standings, because after round 1, pretty pointless. But we've had a couple of rounds now, and Ken Copeland is leading the way by 12 points over Skylar Vickroy. Third place is Martin Wallace, 4 points in front of Ian Carney. Chris Walsh rounds out the top 5 with Tyler Guillemet, Matt Smotherman, who is here again today and just topped the practice session at sea, and Rodney Campbell rounding out the field. The 8 drivers who have taken part in the Pro class this season. In the Open class, Justin Bessett is leading by 2 points, with Francisco Vega behind. Nicholas Batista is just in front of Carl Shelton, Justin Wells, Rui Farina Pereira, all very close together, by the way, all those 4 points apart. Andrew Cooper not too much further back either. Tyler Reid, Tyler Manning, and Dan Fendick, who rounds out the top 10 there. Very close in the Open class. Probably the closest, actually, of all of the classes, because it's the beneficiary class where things get a little bit more spaced out again. Tanner Masters leading the way by 7 points ahead of Louis Rios, with John Salada rounding out the top 3. Cameron Lackney and Philip Chartier round out the top 5, with Nolan Nuke, David Bell, Cody Durkin, Joshua O'Connor all sort of close together. Then the gaps get bigger, and those who have only been at one round so far, Brandon Mateo, the best of those, in 10th position. Just to give you an idea of who's been filtered into what class, this is how it's done. The beneficiary class drivers are any driver enrolled as an Operation Motorsport beneficiary. We didn't show you the Pro Ben class set standings, of course, because we haven't got too many of them, but they're involved as a beneficiary as well, and also meet the Pro class requirements, which are below. The Open class is any serving military member or veteran not enrolled as an Operation Motorsport beneficiary, any staff member, volunteer or supporter of Operation Motorsport, or other participants on a case-by-case basis as determined by the eMotorsports manager. And the Pro class, indeed, which encompasses the Pro Ben class up ahead as well, of course. Any competition license holder, past or present, in IMSA, SRO, FEL, or any other similar level series in the real world. An iRacing A-class road license holder, an iRating of 1900 or higher required, along with a safety rating of 3.99 or higher as well. All of those drivers are put into the Pro class as well. And those are the guys generally that compete up towards the front of our races here in this series. 34 degrees Celsius down on the racetrack. That's 94 Fahrenheit for those of you over in America. And it's 5 p.m. in Sim. Seems to be frozen at 5 p.m. as well, so getting towards the evening time. But not too dark just yet on today's date. Of course, the 16th of September. So into qualifying we go. And sort of partly cloudy conditions, actually, it looks like at the moment as well. So sun not getting into the eyes too much, which is probably a good thing at this stage as well. But it's worth remembering these races aren't too long, to be honest. And so track position does play its role, not in terms of you can't overtake, but it's just not really the time in the races to make up too many positions. And so you need to give yourself as little work to do as possible.
I mean, the amount of congestion that we see on the circuit as well, you want to be putting yourself almost ahead of the rest of the pack, especially in a circuit like Sebring. The opening sector, very high curbs. It's the narrowest part of the circuit, and it's where we're often, we often do see a couple of misdemeanors, miscalculations on the opening lap, and you don't really want to be caught up in all of that. If you're further back in the order, the risk of yourself getting involved in those incidents increases. So getting yourself out in front, getting a good start to qualifying is going to be absolutely crucial. And I think these opening lap times, the banker lap times, are going to carry more weight than they otherwise would in most other qualifying sessions.
So much traffic about again as well. We had 39 entered in practice, by the way. I'm not sure whether we've had any more pop in just through the back door at the very end, but still don't see Ken Copeland out there at the moment. It's a very, very busy racetrack, even though this is a long track. There's not very much time in 10 minutes at Sebring for you to actually get laps in. So it does mean that you've got to find some track space on, because everybody goes out together, flying out the pit lane together, trying to get as many lap times as possible. And it ends up scrapping for places. I mean, you saw it in that sort of static shot on the way towards Bishop there. Everybody all over the place in terms of finding track position, and some of these first laps will have to be canned because they'll have been, getting in the way of other people, trying to get out of other people's ways. You just see with that Aston Martin there, it's carnage on this opening lap.
Yeah, this is a circuit where it's long enough, right? You should be able to find yourself a little bit of a gap, but it's so congested out there that it's almost impossible to give yourself a really good operating window. And when we've got times as varied, as the 2 flat by Max Motherman and a 2-minute 2.4 from Rui Farina, difficult to really judge how much space you have to give the car in front to optimize your lap in the session. Good amount of gap there for Tyler Manning. He's got loads of room to drive into, and let's see if he can improve on that P5 this time by, but a good lap time all the same. You've got 3 wide across the line. That's not going to help anybody out. Dave Bell at the front of all of that in the 3-1-3 and being overtaken into turn 1. You don't often see this in qualifying, 3-1 into turn 1.
Goodness me, you don't see it often in the race either. That was really aggressive, and all of these guys probably feeling, I've got the right to be here. I should be at the front of this group, and everybody else should get out of my way. But if 3 people think that, then there's only going to be one outcome, unfortunately, and that's a battle on the way towards turn number 1, as you saw there. Very interesting and very unusual, as you described, for that to be happening in a qualifying session. Should just remind you, of course, and once again thank the sponsors who make this broadcast possible, starting, of course, with Krautsteichen and Michelin, who are our continued partners here at the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League, and thanks to them for coming on board again for Season 11. As well for Trophy AI, because for Season 11 of the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League, we're beyond excited to kick off another incredible series of racing with the special partners Trophy AI that we've had for the last few seasons. Returning for Season 11, Operation Motorsport beneficiaries competing in the Pro Beneficiary and Beneficiary categories will continue to have access to virtual coaching through our partnership with Trophy AI. This ongoing collaboration helps these incredible competitors refine their skills and become even more competitive on the track, while also boosting their confidence off of it. This initiative is part of the eMotorsport Divisionary programme, which fosters a thriving, supportive community for medically released service members, medically retired service members, and veterans with a service-connected disability, as recognised by the US Department of Veterans Affairs or Veterans Affairs Canada. It's a space where participants from active duty to veterans can train and race in an inclusive virtual environment. A big thanks to Trophy AI for coming on board once again, and to everybody for joining in once again with another incredible season. We've got, as I say, 39 entered for this season. This round itself. And maybe even somebody else has snuck in. I think maybe we're still at 39. But it's an incredible entrance to have once again this time around. We are, of course, at the start of a new iRacing season as well, it's worth noting. And just in the background there, you can see a site that wouldn't have been possible 2 weeks ago, and indeed wasn't possible 2 weeks ago because it wasn't in the sim. But the Aston Martin GT3 has now been added to the simulator, and it looks like a few drivers have already decided to take on the new manufacturer. And that generally is a sign of good things, actually, because generally the new manufacturer does go rather well in the first new iRacing season. And so you can see why a few people have been drawn to it, quite apart from its aesthetics and the fact it's in the game itself. And some people clearly seeing it as an advantage as well. And I've seen a few of them knocking about already.
Yeah, and it is good to see, as we see Jacob Gill there, that rear end going around on him as he goes into turn 1. Four-wide motorsports, you can probably fit far more than 4 cars on the inside of that at turn number 1. Loads of room, but he doesn't quite get it into the barrier. That car should be good enough to maybe go again if he has enough time. But yeah, it's always good to have new manufacturers onto the grid, and this is a very varied series in terms of what drivers have decided to use for their machinery, which is always great to see. It means that there's a real difference and a real variance in what we see week to week, and where, you know, some cars have a couple of strengths that others don't have. It is good to see that change as we go to, you know, varying circuits, as we've seen with Daytona, Laguna Seca and Sebring, 3 very different circuits in their nature week after week. So yeah, intrigued to see how the Aston Martin would go. Bradley Beeman, of course, one of those, as he's just about to come up to the line. P16 for the time being. If there's any improvement from Bradley, doesn't appear so. But he's not the only Aston Martin out there, really, by any stretch of the imagination.
No, they're certainly not. We'll see how they get on tonight. I suspect they will do quite well. Obviously, it depends who drives them. But if a top pro name that we've seen from the likes from the previous rounds, takes it on, then I imagine it will go rather well. There's Jacob Gilday going for his spin through turn 1 that we saw live. He's in car 4 in the open class, spinning his way through the opening corner in what I would describe as a very Porsche way. Certainly for that Porsche, it's a little bit loose on the rear. There's Matt Smotherman in a BMW, so he continues on with the previous manufacturer, but I mean it's a much closer session. I mean, we've seen Ken Copeland dominate 2 rounds now, and admittedly last week, or the week before, I should say, Laguna Seca was a lot closer than Daytona, which was a runaway. Copeland's been the fastest driver by some distance, so it's going to be a much closer race, it looks like, this time, and perhaps a more entertaining one therefore as well.
Yeah, no, you know, I think it'd be great to get one of these big battles at the front of the field, of course. Particularly in that opening race at Daytona, of course, it's stretched out very early on, but it looks like there's a very tight group of cars at the top of the order, and it's going to provide a fantastic, at least start to the race before we get into any kind of strategy, you know, considerations as we run our way through the 40 minutes here. But Smotherman into a 1:59.2. There's not many in the, you know, sub 2 minute category. I think there's only 6 of them at the moment, so yeah, it's an exclusive group, and we'll have to see if anybody else can join them with the checker flag flying now.
Down into the final corner, Tyler Manning just being tripped up maybe a little bit by that Aston Martin. I think he's just about left enough space and might even have gotten a bit of a benefit from the slipstream here. Are we going to see an open class driver take pole for the first time overall this season? Oh, we might well do. Tyler Manning goes faster, a 1:59.1, and that might well be good enough for Tyler Manning to take pole here. Who's still out there improving? Francisco Vega, another open class driver, still out there, but I'm not sure he's going to have enough to overtake. Only Gene Kelly is the first of the pro drivers, down in 16th place at the moment, and Vega's actually got over the line already, so he won't be improving any further. It looks like we're pretty much guaranteed now to have an open class driver. There's no, maybe another open driver, but there's no pros left to jump over Manning here. Batista comes to the pit lane. There might not be anybody left to jump over Tyler Manning. It looks like with the checkered flag waving, Tyler Manning has done just enough to take his first pole position of the season and the first non-pro pole for this season.
Yeah, and great to have it right at the end of the session as well. No one else really jumping up, actually. As I said, that Jacob Bittel moves into the top 8 with the checker flag flying, as it has done for some time now. So he must have just about started his final flying lap before we saw the clock hit 0. But yeah, Tyler Manning, it's a bit of a checkerboard as well at the top, isn't it? With the top 6 going open pro, open pro, open pro. So it really is going to be an interesting start with one side of the grid, the front at least being taken up by open drivers and the other side with pro drivers.
Absolutely. Well, that is going to be an interesting start, but this is going to be one of the races of the season so far, it feels like. Although Laguna Seca 2 weeks ago was very good as well. It's a different pole sitter. It's a much closer field. You get the feeling this is going to be a fantastic race. 37 have qualified here. Philippe Chartier and Jacob Gilday both either deciding not to or unable to qualify there. Gilday is one of our drivers inside the top 10 of one of these championships, I'm pretty sure. I said him earlier on in the open class, but now I can't find him because I've looked away. But anyway, it's Tyler Manning who's taken the pole position, and what a lap that was as well from him right at the very end. Alongside will be Matt Smotherman, and as you say, the open and pro sort of very split here. So Mason Cardinale and Francisco Vega on the other side, Charlie Guillemet and Martin Wallace on the right-hand side of the road. Then it starts to split up a little bit with Ian Carney, the pro, then on the left-hand side. Jacob Little then 8th place. Justin Bessett and Nicholas Batista then will share the top 10. Tyler Reid and Mitch Herrick will be on row 6. Chris Glandon is a beneficiary driver, I think taking pole actually in that class, ahead of Carl Shelton. Aaron Mack and Gene Kelly will be on row 8 ahead of Louis Rios and Zach Merrill, and all Ford Mustang row 9. Zach Pritchard and Jonathan Labby, and then round out the top 20 with Karen Lackney and Tyler Beeman on row 11. Rory Farina and Nolan Uke are on row 12 ahead of Brandon Mateo and Bradley Beeman. I think it's an open driver, one of our Aston Martins actually. Thomas Godfrey and Andrew Cooper, all Porsche, row 14 ahead of Eric Knight and Cameron Burke, who rounds out the top 30. Outside of that, we've got those who were a little bit down in qualifying. Justin Wells on one side, John Hicks, Thad Weaver, Dave Bell, Dan Fendick. Rodney Campbell didn't get a lap in that represents his pace, and same for Patrick Nolan, 5.8 and 8.3 seconds, 8.7 seconds, sorry, off the pole position. Not qualifying was Philip Chartier and Jacob Gilday, as I mentioned. Chartier is on the grid already, so we see the conditions, 15 minutes on, not too much change. Seems to be a couple of holes on the grid as gridding ends. See and report on those when we know who they are and know if that indeed is going to be the case. Yeah, the pace car pulls away. Bradley Beeman is not there. You can see that hole on the grid up there on the left-hand side. And Patrick Nolan, Jacob Gilday also there. You can see a couple of drivers deciding that pit lane might be the better place to start. I mean, Sebring for me is not a turn one that would give that sort of reaction actually, but clearly the very large field size, the quite narrow circuit is laying itself to a few people deciding that they're better off in the pit lane starting from there.
Yeah, a couple of last to firsts maybe being attempted, but yeah, it's not necessarily. I mentioned turn 2 and 3 up here, where it can get quite tight, and maybe there's a want to avoid that kind of chaos and carnage. But turn 1's quite open. It's very, very wide. You could fit 3-4 wide if you really wanted to. You don't really want to, but it's possible. So maybe a little bit surprising to see a couple of drivers starting from pit lane, but we do get the joy of a full formation lap at Sebring, as we always do. Pace car always starts on the start-finish straight, and it means that it gives these drivers a lot of time to think about how they're going to start this race. Maybe more time than they wanted to, really, particularly if you're starting right at the front of the field.
Well, absolutely. It's going to be a very interesting look to the front of this field. I do notice, talked a little bit about it in qualifying, but the fact that, you know, the Aston Martin is in the field again, or in iRacing for the first time, I should say, not really any of them taken on by the front guys. We saw the first glimpse of one bit further down in row 7 or something. There it is on the right-hand side of the picture there. I don't think this race, therefore, is going to be won by one of those Aston Martins. It's a mix of manufacturers, though, up towards the front, and a mix of drivers as well. You've got to remember that the points scored in this series are based on an overall system, and, you know, purely driver classification is the only distinction in this series, which is otherwise all GT3, which means that the field is very disordered and the classes are very disordered throughout. They all race with one another, racing for an overall point system as well, and racing for an overall win tonight. We've got the prospect of an open versus pro battle for the win.
Yeah, and that's really what is going to be exciting about this race here. And it's not just limited to that front row, but the second and third row as well. This really is going to be an intricate race, particularly at the start. And, you know, if you just took the grid at face value and we actually see the top 6 run out of, you know, the opening lap in the same order that they will take the green flag in, then we're going to have almost battles for the sake of battles to try and get into position to fight with other drivers in your own class. So that's going to be the difficult factor, I think, here, and also the case of drivers wanting not just to go for their classmen but for the overall win as well, and how they balance that out in their minds and in how they go for this race win. Kind of conundrums that we haven't had to face yet this season, which is why this is going to be somewhat intriguing to see how the drivers cope and how they approach this kind of challenge.
Yeah, I'm very fascinated to see how they try to tackle this one now, because of that sort of new dynamic almost. You see the windscreen banners that show the difference throughout the field. Not everyone's got one, but the blue is a pro driver, the red an open class driver, and the green a beneficiary class driver. You can see running down the Ulman Straight now and into the final turn, ready to start this race after the full pace lap here from Sebring. 40 minutes of racing, as always, in the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League. Third round here from Sebring. At the end of tonight, we'll be 1/3 of the way through season 11 already. Pace cars in We're ready to go. Green flag racing here from Sebring. And it looks like we're nearly 3 wide for the lead already. Barely coming through the final corner, those in the background, as the green flag waves out front. It's a dive down the inside from Smotherman, who's trying to take that place away from Tyler Manning. A little bit of caution taken on from everybody through turn 1, but that's not the trouble spot generally. It's down here at turn 3, the section from 3 to 5, where things generally start to go a little bit more wrong. But for Manning, it's been a good start and a holding of that lead from pole for that pole sitter. McLaren leads the field around out of that first sector.
Yeah, Guillemette, let's see, trying to get to the outside line as they're on their way down in towards the hairpin. Matt Smotherman going to the inside line, knowing that he has to defend, but right around the outside. Can Tyler brake late enough? He's tried it, he nearly did, but Matt Smotherman knows he has to give him the room as they work their way out towards, the back end of the circuit and tower turn. Mason Cardinal as well, just trying to stick his nose in, get himself involved, but he doesn't want to find himself spinning around in a battle that isn't even within his own class right now. The 5 looking for the inside line, not going to get it done there, and all of this battling has given Tyler Manning a full second lead already.
Dave Bell in trouble early on. Oh, and driving down the grass, actually. I think he's trying to stay out of trouble so much that actually drove down the grass for a short period of time there. Only Gene Kelly down back to pit lane again. And was that the Porsche maybe, or was that somebody else? We've had a number of others who have been delayed off the start, but anyway, Guillemette and Cardinal battle again. Guillemette actually got past Mason Cardinal immediately off the start of this race, and Guillemette gets that place back again. So Cardinal trying to challenge that. Oh, and gets a run out the corner, in fact. Martin Wallace is right there as well. And he's going to pull alongside in that other Porsche. The pros are starting to get past the open class drivers, at least on this opening lap of the race. And here he comes to the outside line. No, Cardinal keeps 4th place for now and needs to, if he's going to think about chasing down Tyler Manning at some point in this race.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to start getting themselves together pretty quickly. Matt Smotherman has just disappeared up the road from this battle immediately and, gained another half a second back through the final sector on Tyler Manning. Inside line now, though, can Martin Wallace try and make this one work for him? The 666 trying to keep himself in contention with drivers in his own class. A little bit of connection issues aren't going to help at all, and Martin Wallace is going to get through. And Francisco Vega may have a look as well at the 35 as we work our way through turns 3 to 5, and now back onto this back straight once again. They're just about going to single file their way out, but for Martin Wallace, that was a really important move to make.
That was Aaron Mack in the background going for a spin. Just caught the glimpse of it there in the distance through turn 5. And he was sent there, I think, by Zach Pritchard, who's now up to the top 10. Aaron Mack went for a spectacular spin there. He's side by side with Pritchard. He's already making the side-to-side contact. Mack tries to shut the door. I'm afraid there was not enough of that car in front for him to shut the door, and he's made pretty heavy contact on that rear left.
Yeah, not what Aaron Mack needed at all, and of course, just about getting back onto the road without making contact. Easily could have gone much worse than that, and he's now back towards the rear end of quite a long train of cars that he doesn't really feel like he needs to be fighting. And in a short race, only 40 minutes, particularly with this many cars in the circuit, it means that you've got to do a lot of work very quickly indeed. And again, Sebring, long circuit. We're talking about maybe 20, 21 laps over the course of this race, probably more like 20. Opportunities are going to start falling through your fingers pretty quickly if you don't make them work early on.
Just a couple of laps of this race gone, and oh dear, Patrick Nolan has been in the wall through turn 1. I was going to say mostly a clean start, but there has been 1 or 2 incidents here or there, and Nolan Newt goes for a spin now too. The BMW sideways stranded on the circuit. I think he must have locked that down before he actually hit the wall there. Or has he? Well, we'll find out in a moment as he gets back underway. Again, there's Jacob Gill then, car 4. Going back a bit here to see what happened to you. There's probably a story to tell back here. Right in the middle of the pack, by the way. 18th at the time. And that is almost smack bang in the middle. See it going a little bit wrong from the Le Mans chicane, and then he just continues to slide inside, and he did actually make pretty heavy contact with the wall.
Yeah, not what he needed at all. To kiss the wall up towards the turn 1, you really want to be turning left. Probably isn't the best line, and clearly a sign of bad moment. Thomas Godfrey, that would have been a program moment, just about getting around a spinning car in front. and the number 7 making sure that he wasn't caught up in the incident there, which is very easy to do, particularly when a car is just going to hold itself going through that right-hander, because it can just keep itself on the racing line and stick very firmly in the way of everybody coming behind and create somewhat of a blockade. But thankfully we've avoided that, and we've avoided, you know, pretty much every big incident that we could have had in the opening few laps here.
Absolutely. It's not been a big pileup, which has been positive, certainly. It's been good racing so far as well. We've got a front two who are very close together indeed. Manning and Smotherman. Two different class drivers, but as I mentioned, this is a GT3 series where all the cars are balanced based on BOP, and the drivers aren't separated by that much in many cases as well. So it allows us to have battles for the lead like this one between Manning and Smotherman. Outside line for Smotherman coming into the final corner through Sunset Bend. Manning able to keep that place with relative ease. Here comes Smotherman on the exit of the corner, looking for a run. Will he be able to get past here maybe? In towards turn number 1 this time. Tucks right in behind the McLaren as much as he can. And boy, has a look there, Smotherman, but he can't get down the inside. Shaves that wall on the left-hand side, and now he's got to figure out somewhere else. He's certainly applying the pressure, but it's unclear that he's actually quicker at the moment than Manning. He's just there applying pressure for the moment, and this lap car isn't going to help them either. Oh dear. Oh.
Word. Getting in the way. I mean, at turn 5, yeah, awful place, and particularly with the flicking as well, and the difficulties that these guys will have had to see that car. Matt Smotherman's going to be less than pleased. He's lost about 2 seconds to Guillaume behind. He's lost a full second to Tyler Manning up in front, and yeah, Manning's just been able to he's been afforded a bit of breathing room to the same distance that he had on the opening lap of the race. Smotherman's just got to do all of that work yet again just to get back into the same position to maybe make the overtake.
Yeah, and pretty unlucky, all things considered. Got to admit, not that far behind. Martin Wallace and Mason Cardinal pretty close to one another as well. This is it's Patrick Nolan. He really needs to sort out that connection problem, really, if he's going to continue on here tonight, because that's pretty severe if you're sort of making others slow down quite that much through fear of crashing into the car that's blinking. Brandon Mateo now has got a meatball flag as well. It's not that far down the field, so we'll see where that happened to him as well, as we now go on board with Mason Cardinal in the 5th place. Down a couple of positions from the start, but that's both to pro-class drivers, so you can certainly understand that, and you can understand if he just tucks in here for the next few minutes and uses slipstream and single file, but that was the final corner going wrong a little bit. You heard the lift off there as he just misjudged that.
Yeah, and easy to do, and there's so many different lines to take through Sunset Bend, but if you just try and push a little bit too hard, you're going to be finding yourself very, very close to a barrier in a way that is going to make it, you know, critical to lift off a bit. This is a circuit that is wide in parts, but then also with the amount of, you know, tarmac that you find around this circuit, you find yourself pushing the limits. Oh, there's a car off into the barrier in the background. I'm not too sure who that is. Could be a lapped car.
No. It's Sandro Cooper in the open class. Yeah. He's crashed from about 10th place, I think, from this group.
Yeah, and that's not good for him, especially at that part of the circuit as well. And from a train that was running quite well in the early stages, not a long way off the lead. I mean, 9 minutes into this race, the top 10 are only split by about 11 seconds, which is not what we've seen in the last couple of races.
Oh, goodness me, that was close for that Mustang. Now it was Thomas Godfrey. And Mitch Herrick is in the Mustang just in front, by the way. He was very lucky there to not be collected. But Godfrey was standing his ground. Get the feeling that Cooper was coming across as if to, you know, try and shut the door. But Godfrey was saying, well, I am going to be on this inside line whether you like it or not. And in the end, there was a spin. Godfrey held his ground there, and, you know, I think he had a right to do so as well. Cooper was the one trying to shut the door and, again, didn't have the room quite to do so.
Yeah, difficult to see how close they were to the corner, of course, but Godfrey was not turning in yet, and, you know, was just going to hold his line all the way through that opening corner, and in the end. Lucky, really. I think he'll be pleased to survive, and now might try and get through on the lucky 81, which just about survived that collision a moment ago. Such a tight train. Look at this bunch of 6 cars as they make their way down the Ullman Straight. There's barely anything to separate them as they work their way towards Sunset Bend. Bit of a gap up the road, but inside, outside, which is the best line? The 7's just about going to sneak down the inside line. Godfrey going to get that move done. Lackney going to get to the inside as well, and Mitch Herrick has lost 1. He's lost 2. He's losing 3 and maybe even 4 as well.
Well, this is a train coming through, and it's 2 Aston Martins right now going to be coming through as well. This is not a good couple of moments here for Herrick, who's losing places. Hand over fist. Here we go into turn 1 again. Very tight line for Herrick, and right round the outside, those Aston Martins will go. Tyler Reid and Tyler Beeman both coming through, following the likes of Cameron Lackney and Godfrey, who started this all off as well. It's all in this one large group, and I say it all the time in GT3 racing, in groups like this, it can look like it's almost impossible to overtake for lap after lap, but as soon as the door is ajar, a number may well walk through it, and that's what's happened, unfortunately, to Herrick, who's still seeing that continue in the background. Carl Shelton in the other Mustang now looking down the inside, although finally he doesn't go for it.
Oh, wide moment though as they work their way through the hairpin, and that's going to give a chance to one of the Astons to make its way through. I believe that was Tyler Beeman. Indeed it was, on Cayman Lackney, as we work our way again towards the right hand. And look, for a moment there was going to be a send or two, but nothing through there. They'll make their way towards Tower Turn now, and we're going to see anybody be able to gain up once again to the back of that number 7 in front, because big contact. And a Tower Turn. Tyler Reid's around.
It was a stack up there, and Tyler Reid is the one who ends up spinning around. The McLaren is actually, if Cameron Lackney was pretty much spinning around as well. That was tight. It's one of the Porsches very narrowly avoided disaster. Now, how did this all really start? Tyler Reid sort of on the inside, has a look down the inside, and I think almost feels immediate responsibility for an incident there that is sort of not even fully developed, but he stops on the apex trying to sort of give the place back up again and gets completely rear-ended by unwitting followers. I think Herrick maybe even was the one who actually rear-ended completely, and you know, unfortunately that's the sort of downside of the gentleman's rule, if you like, of slowing down for someone you've spun round. Well, you certainly can't do it just stopping immediately anyway, because that kind of problem will be created.
It will, and a couple of drivers paying the price quite severely for that, and it's just opened that group up a little bit more than before. The opposite has happened for the battle for the lead again. Matt Smotherman has gained right to the back of Tyler Manning, and he did it after lap 1 when that gap was about 1.5 seconds, closed it right down to about 1/4 second. He's done exactly the same thing. Lost the time because of the lap car spinning through turn 5, and all of a sudden he's back on the leader once more. Can he out-strategize Tyler Manning? Is he just going to get this one done on the road as quickly as he possibly can to avoid a similar incident repeating itself and him dropping back yet again? We'll have to wait and see, but he definitely looks like he's got a little bit more pace than Smotherman at the moment. Last time by, he was 4/10 faster.
That was a better run out of Tower as well, by the way, from Smotherman, who's really close coming into Bishop. It's just a shame for him that there's not a great overtaking opportunity coming up here. Well, he might well make it one. Oh, my word. That was quite rash, actually. He looked down the inside, but actually look at what he's done to the time gap. The gap goes to well over 1/2 second. Just shows that, you know, having a look down the inside there might well look spectacular, but might not have been the best idea. In the end, Manning doesn't quite get that chicane right either, and so Smotherman's right back in the game now on the Ullman Straight. We just passed 1/3 distance already, and this battle for the lead is not going away. Outside line for Smotherman into the final corner, and again Manning holds the inside line, protects the inside line nicely. Smotherman will get the exit, and Manning ends up keeping the position. He ends up with quite good straight line speed actually on the front straight. The slipstream starts to take effect now, but again Smotherman can't find his way through. This has been a long time now where the pro driver has tried to get past the open class driver, and it's not yet happened.
No, not yet. Maybe a look towards the inside at turn 3. It's not going to work out there for for Matt Smotherman, as chasing Tyler Manning as he runs through the end of the opening sector once again. But Manning feels like he's chucking the car in all kinds of defensive shapes at the moment, because he knows that threat is coming. Went defensive into Sunset Bend, went defensive into turn 1, went defensive into turn 2 as well. He doesn't quite goes defensive into the hairpin, knows that he's a little bit safer. But what about Cunningham Corner? Smotherman's looked pretty good at this back end of this circuit, and the traffic coming up isn't going to help either. Can Guillemette get himself involved as well? Because Manning it does feel like he's holding up Smotherman at the moment, and there is more pace behind if they can use it.
Well, there's pit stops in this race to come, and you get the feeling that Smotherman's going to be able to get through one way or the other, but you can't bank on that. Otherwise, the lead may well never arrive for him, so he's got to proactively try and do something here. So they catch up to a bit of lap traffic. That's Gene Kelly, who towed back to pit lane at the end of the opening lap, or actually midway through the opening lap of the race, just as Jacob Gilday's done. Now that thing on the right-hand side is broken. Not entirely sure why he had to come back to pit lane. In fact, he may not have had to tow actually in the end. It may just be erroneous on the right-hand side data that we're getting at the moment. In the background, Justin Bessick goes around. Now, did he hit the wall there? That was a very strange sort of angle to be going off, though. The front a little bit misshapen, as again the leaders fight through the final turn. It's hard to know where to look at the moment. There's a lot happening out there on the racetrack. Here comes Manning again on the way in towards turn number 1, and he can't get through. Same story again, but Bessick goes off the road down into the or out of Le Mans Corner.
Yeah, really bizarre place to spin it around. It looked almost like he'd gone wide, tried to put the power down, and on the grass it's just spun him up there. We'll have to see it again to see what happened. But let's see, 442. Does he just drift wide? Yeah, goes wide into the grass, tries to get the power down, and that car is not going to stick with him. And hard, that front left, hard into the wall. And no wonder that the front end of the car looks slightly misfigured. Would look far worse than that in real life, you'd think.
Well, yeah, true, but it's a pretty big and strong car, so he'll get away with that by the looks of it. At least visually he has. Although Bessick comes into the pit lane right now anyway. It'll be around about the schedule anyway, because there's 23 minutes to go. And around halfway you can pit in this series and you'll be fine. Certainly this close to halfway, just 3 minutes away from it. So Tyler Manning continues to lead and continues to defend, but I think he's really got to think about his pit stop strategy now and how he can stay in front of Smotherman, because at the moment it looks like if Smotherman gets in front, then that might well be the race done.
Yeah, because it just feels like the number 84 has some more pace underneath him right now. Even Guillemette now starting to close in would help to suggest that fact. And you can just see him using different lines and not losing any time through the back end of the circuit. Some of the more technical parts of this Sebring racetrack. What's happened to Dave Bell? That rear end has gone around on him, maybe getting a little bit too trigger happy on towards that back straight. And he has got himself out from the grass back up to the racetrack once again, where he finds many a rival at the moment, not least Manning and Smotherman, who are still in the same order. How far can they go to the pit stops? Who blinks first on that front as well?
Well, exactly. Such a difficult situation for Smotherman on that front in terms of blinking first, because if you look at all the way down the field, I mean, we've been following this race, obviously, and watching the battles up and down the field. There's not very many big gaps. The biggest gap I can see on the lead lap is 22 seconds between 34th and 35th. Now, because Smotherman's battling for the lead, he's not going to lose nearly 2 minutes in the pit lane. He's going to lose something more like 40 seconds. 40 seconds gets him right in the midfield. Just between those 10 seconds, there's a group of about 6 who are mostly fighting together. If you're Smotherman here, you absolutely do not want to end up in a group like that.
No, and if you do, you want to be the one to find them first. So I think he'll want to get a move on, get himself into the lead now and be able to dictate that pit stop phase a little bit better. We don't know how much Manning's been saving. Is that why he's been slower lap after lap than Matt Smotherman? That's not necessarily going to be the case, but we're just not going to know until we see some of these pit stops take place. Really, it's difficult to judge as we work our way out of tower turn. They've got more lap traffic to try and deal with right now, and that's the number 41 who would be getting shown blue flags over in Europe, but it's not going to work out in the same way. Oh, bit of a dive. Smotherman, difficult part of the racetrack. Oh, he's looked for it, it's not quite got it, but he's going wherever he can at the moment.
That angle made it look like he was going to clatter into the side of the McLaren, but they get away with it there. And again, that is Gene Kelly up in front, by the way, in the Porsche. So Manning is just in behind that, and that is becoming a bit of a problem for him actually at the moment. Here comes Smotherman again. He's had a couple of goes into that chicane, and finally now he's got the inside for Sunset. I'm not entirely sure why Manning has decided to change strategy and go for the outside this time, but it clearly hasn't been working for Smotherman, and it's not going to work for Manning this time either. He's going to get the better run in the McLaren. Oh, did he scrape the wall there? And he might well just have done, as he scraped the wall coming out of that final corner. Does he get to the inside? No, he doesn't. And seemingly after lap of defending stoutly, he's just sort of given that away.
And you can see the desperation to try and get back through with the clipping of that front left on the tyre barrier, just trying to gain every single mile an hour early on the straight, just try and use the cutback line. That is not necessarily effective around here at Sebring, but as effective as can be. But it wasn't going to be for Tyler Manning. He's got to be careful of his namesake, Guillaume Met, just in behind him. And then, of course, Martin Wallace a little bit further back, but I think his eyes are still going to be focused on Matt Smotherman, who is in traffic, and there is going to be an opportunity for Tyler Manning if he's astute here.
Yeah, you can already see that Smotherman's got the speed, so I almost think that outside of a crash, I think he can do whatever now. Here comes the pass. Kelly gets out the way of Smotherman, but not Manning. Oh, that's not going to impress Tyler Manning very much, who loses another tenth or two. I wasn't going crazy, was I? He did scrape the wall there, didn't he?
Yeah.
Out the final corner. I mean, very weird that he'd even be getting anywhere close to doing that. But anyway, he seemed to be just trying to maximise that so much. And as I say, almost a sense of desperation. But if that's the case, then why wasn't he defending the inside as harshly as he has been for the previous 20 minutes? It seems like a complete change of strategy, and for no real reason at all.
Yeah, it's puzzling really for Tyler Manning, but again, I think when you're the car behind and you're used to being the car in front, very easy to follow their line. Then if you just stray away from it the tiniest of bits, as he did, he found himself in the wall because there's no margin for error around Sunset Bend. He's already lost a full second though to who is now the race leader. Guillaume Met maybe looking for an inside line, not going to get it through Sunset Bend, or is he? Because that's a very, very wide line from Tyler Manning, and he's nearly going to find himself in the wall again. It's going to be a better exit for him, but Guillemets more than through, and Manning's lost 2 spaces in 2 laps now.
Yeah, the wheels are coming off here for Tyler Manning, absolutely. He goes very wide through Sunset Bend here, and Guillemette goes straight through on the inside line, just slips through as well, just Guillemette on that lapped car. Another Corvette, which they're having to negotiate. Oh, Manning having to jump down the inside there. 2 goes at the turn in there. Was that Patrick Nolan again, I think, going a second lap down in this race. Jonathan Lavie and Louis Rios come into pit lane. Chris Glandon has been leading the race, by the way, in the beneficiary class all day so far. Up inside the top 10, 8th place overall for the beneficiary class leader. Not one of our top 10, actually, in the championship for the beneficiary class, but all you need really in that category for a race win is a clean, consistent race out of the traffic, and this has been one of the best displays of that we've seen this season. It's looking comfortable so far anyway.
Yeah, and doing a good job. I think it's difficult really when you're a class leader on your own in a situation like this, because you want to move forward, you want to push on, but you know really that if you've not got the ultimate pace to move up too far, then it's good to just rest on your laurels in this kind of race at this stage, because you know for a fact that the drivers around you do not really have any chance of beating you if you just get it to the checkered flag at the pace that you're currently going at. So for Chris Glandon, yes, he wants to move forward, yes, he'll want to get a better position overall, but I think this is an absolutely stunning spot to find himself in. 15 seconds ahead of Lackney in class right now.
A field, of course, slightly split apart by pit stops, and so we'll probably get a gauge on where everybody is in a moment. But you can see the front of this field getting more spaced out from those behind with the last few moments. Anyway, there's a couple of Mustangs again fighting for 5th place. Vega and Jacob Little, who's in 6th at the moment, looking to make another pass here maybe. As Glandon gets very close to Zach Pritchard in the background, and actually goes through because Zach Pritchard comes into pit lane. And a spin! Jacob Little goes for a spin. It doesn't go all the way round. Saves it in the end in that Mustang, but it just shows what a high speed and sort of on the knife edge corner that turn one is, because that's multiple manufacturers tonight already we've seen having at least trouble through there.
Yeah, and you can just see that rear end is trying to hold it. You can see those front tyres turning as hard right as they can as he tries to catch this now. And it's a really impressive job for Jacob Little to just about catch that one. Yes, he's lost a lot of time. Yes, he's been facing the wall for a few seconds. But by the time that the car has gone to, or come back to his control, it is facing in exactly the direction that he needs it to be doing so. It's a good hold for Jacob Little. Yes, he's lost time, but he's not lost really anything in terms of positions, and he can still try and pull that back to Francisco Vega in the closing, what will be, 7 laps when they cross the line, because especially with the pit stop, we're not going to be getting that extra lap in. So, I mean, already 7 laps to go. Feels like we've barely got going, but that's what happens in these races. Time ticks away. When it feels like you're not even looking.
Yeah. Well, that's been the case again here tonight, as it has been throughout this series. We'll be here every week, by the way, every Tuesday night until the end of October, when this series finally comes to a conclusion. Next week is the only trip over to Europe, in fact, the only trip outside North America for this series. The Red Bull Ring will be hosting round 4. And I think if we're going to pick one European circuit to go for on this calendar, then I do support the Red Bull Ring very much. It's a fantastic circuit for pure racing anyway. It's a very different style circuit to the sort of American style which we've seen so far, especially in the last couple of weeks at Laguna Seca and Sebring, and the ones that will come after that as well. But as far as European circuits go for racing, it's one of the best. As Tyler Manning now comes into pit lane, I think he'll be far less thinking about how he can win this race overall, actually, Manning, and more he'll be turning his eyes back to his own class again now, which he's still got a very good chance of winning.
Yeah, I mean, even if he doesn't win the overall race, we're ahead of Smotherman and Guillemette and Wallace, he's still in a good place to win his class, which is a really important result in itself, because realistically, he could beat Smotherman, Guillemette and Wallace, and yeah, he'd take the you take the plaudits, and he'd have the ego boost, really, wouldn't we all? And have the honour of winning the race, but at the same time, it's not going to gain him anything in terms of his points tally in class. So I think trying to work out what's the best way to get himself to victory lane for the open class is going to be key from here. A podium overall is a bonus, but right now, making sure that he beats Francisco Vega and Jacob Little has to be the ultimate priority, because if he goes chasing after Smotherman, Guillemette and Wallace for pride and ends up losing sporting points by making a mistake, then he's going to feel extra silly by the end of this race.
That, by the way, was not a battle for position coming out of the pit lane there, because Cooper, well, it is a battle for position right now, but Cooper hasn't stopped yet. Oh, and that's going to be upsetting Manning at the moment. A big dive down the inside from Andrew Cooper, and he goes through there, and now it puts Manning into the clutches of someone who has stopped, which is Mason Cardinal. 3 laps ago, Mason Cardinal was in pit lane, and he's in that Porsche right behind now as well. This is the pitfall of pitting a little bit earlier. Manning has gone from a situation of not having anybody around him, running in clean air, to now being in amongst other drivers who haven't stopped yet, and it slowed him down enough to allow Mason Cardinal into the fight, and this now is the battle for the open class win.
Yeah, it's really quite tight now as we work our way through the Le Mans corner and onto this back straight. Tyler Manning would really needs to get this move done quickly and effectively, just to give himself a bit of a settler as we run our way down in towards Sunset Bend. Is there any chance that he gets it done here? Doesn't really look like it, unless there's a big old send in there. Can't really be a big old send into the corner with a very, very limited braking zone. Manning going a little bit wide again. Got to be careful of Cardinal in behind, and into the pit lane comes Cooper. Cardinal will stay behind. But now Tyler Manning has to focus completely on his mirrors, cannot rest on what's in front of him. That's going to be a move. Mason to the inside line, the 35, does he get it done? Not quite. He takes a very tight line to the inside, and in the end Manning's going to have the better run, and let's see if he can run away now.
Yeah, Manning's not getting much luck at all at the moment. There's another car appearing in front of him now. Zach Merrill, and a spin! Now it's gone away for Cardinal, because there was a spin there and a bit of contact. Now, how much damage has that given to the Porsche in reality? You can see the aesthetics of it, that's obvious, but what about the actual effect it's going to have on the handling of that Porsche? Has Manning sort of seen the look turn in a big way in his favour in a very short moment there, as Cardinal now gets more traffic in front? Oh, Manning had about half an hour there of traffic going the wrong way for him, and the potential of losing his class lead. Well, all of a sudden that has changed in a heartbeat, and Mason Cardinal is suddenly in big trouble here. How much contact was there really? He was trying to follow Manning through. Oh, he missed the apex there. I think Merrill was trying to almost out the way, but Cardinal missed the apex.
You did, and you can see that the contact has created a lot of at least cosmetic damage on that front right, and understandably so. It was a big old hit for Cardinal. He's got a big uphill battle now, 7 seconds back to Jacob Little. But it's interesting to see where, or it will be interesting to see where Francisco Vega fits out in all of this when he makes his pit stop. Guillermet Wallace there into pit lane for their one and what should be their only pit stops in this race with less than 10 minutes to go. Unless there's an egregious mixed calculation on the fuel, because there are 5 laps when Guillermet comes out of the pit lane here.
There he goes, pulling to a stop. About 13 seconds, what we're looking at here. He's had a short one there compared to some of the others, only 10 seconds down on the box. That's the shortest stop of anybody who has stopped inside the top 10. Although Justin Bessett and Cameron Lackney have gone shorter than that even, so nothing too much to worry about. Martin Wallace has just gone shorter than that as well just now. So Rui Farina, Matt Smotherman and Francisco Vega are the only 3 drivers yet to pit now. There'll be 4 laps to go when they get to the line. And this is understandable strategy, actually, from Smotherman, because, he didn't want to pit and end up in all the traffic. Now, when he pits, he might actually end up in the lead or come out in the lead. Certainly, if not, he'll come out second with a long way up to Vegas. So he's played this very well, actually, in terms of only really having to pass 1 car today and the lap traffic, obviously, which he can't do much about. But in terms of staying out of the traffic, he's done a very good job of that.
Yeah, and I think that's critical in a race like this because, again, you have very little recovery time if anything goes wrong. So making sure that it's clean is critical. It sounds like a cliche, and it is really. As we see Bradley Beamon having his issues down at the Le Mans corner and collecting another car as well that tried to avoid, I'm sure, the Mad Sim Racing driver. But in a race like this, to keep your nose clean is critical. In a 24-hour race, if you have a spin or two, you can gain that time back over the course of the next 5 stints and still feel like you've got a lot of time to push on from there. Here, you've got, especially if you make a mistake now, you can for 30 minutes, you make the one mistake, you drop a few positions, and that's really your race ruined, and there's no recovery from this. Smotherman into the pit lane now. Is Vega going to follow him in to give Smotherman a possibility of leading the second half of this race on his own, or will he go through once again? No, Vega will come into the pit lane, and it means it's between Smotherman and Guillermet on the pit exit.
There are the final stops happening on the bottom of your screen. Manning with one final important overtake to make, really. Oh, he might even be given the place. Farina, it looks like he was defending there, but he was just actually making sure he could still get to the pit lane, because I assume this is the limit, actually, for these guys needing to make a pit stop. That was quite close to Smotherman running completely off the road there. But he gets away with it. And he's got a big lead as well, 5.5 seconds or more over Tyler Guillemette. Coming into today, Ken Copeland was the championship leader. Skylar Vickroy is not here today either. Martin Wallace then is the championship leader of people who are here today. Worth remembering that Guillemette and Smotherman have only been at 1 round, so Wallace is going to take the championship lead with another very consistent run. Oh no, and Tyler Manning's gone off! This time he loses his front end! Oh dear, the pole sitter has not had much luck this afternoon. He's gone straight on at turn 3, and now he's in all sorts of trouble. He may well have big damage here, and he'll certainly be in a big battle now to even keep his class podium.
He will, because Zach Pritchard is right there and ready to pounce in the number 15 car. What happened to Tyler Manning? Does he get collected by the traffic? They're fighting 2 sides in front of him. One goes right. Oh, yeah, he just gets put up in their own in their incident. Nothing to do with it himself. And Zach Merrill will end up... I'm not sure what happened to Zach Merrill, but Tyler Manning himself dropping down to P4. He's behind Zach Pritchard now. There was nothing that Tyler Manning could do in that situation. He's just minding his own business. The cars in front are fighting and have their own accident. Sadly for Tyler Manning, gets collected as well.
Oh dear. It all happens very quickly. Oh, and he actually misses the tyre wall there. Not sure that's the tyre wall arrangement anymore, because in real life you would be able to completely ramp up the grass bank there and go into the crowd, but that's not possible. So not sure what's going on there, but Manning loses so many places. He's now behind the beneficiary class leader as Vega and Beeman battle away. Francisco Vega was the class leader for a while, but it was when he hadn't stopped yet. Now that he has, he's actually outside of the top 5 as Tyler Beeman gets into 6th place in class and the top 10 overall as well. It looks like he's going to be the first driver in an Aston Martin in this series history to finish inside the top 10 as long as he survives the next 5 laps.
Yeah, which is going to be far easier said than done. I think it'll only be, 3 laps when he crosses the line with the amount of time we've got left. But yeah, let's just see if he can get home and get this one done and dusted. Bit of a flick of the lights there as we run our way towards turn 1. Not really sure what that's going to do in this kind of lighting, but hey-ho, we continue onwards. The number 15, Zach Pritchard, does look like he's closing on Jacob Little. But you've got to remember, with Justin Bissett just there is no room for error because a podium in class is very firmly up for grabs here.
What is going on here with one of the Corvettes? I think it's Jacob Gilday. Maybe not. Somebody anyway, almost defending there. I think they didn't want to give up the place before turn 3. Now happy to do so on a longer straight down here towards turn 7, which is fair enough, although Zach Pritchard might have had a different view. He keeps third place nevertheless ahead of Justin Bissett and then Chris Glandon, who is just in behind as well. I don't think Glandon's going to get particularly involved in this, actually. We've not seen him particularly this season, but he's got a class win at his fingertips if he just stays out of trouble here, so he might well just back away.
Yeah, you don't really want to be getting yourself involved again. It's like I said earlier, Chris Glandon is doing an absolutely stellar job in this race. What does 7th overall really mean to him compared to 8th when you've got a potential class win on the line? And that's not really something that you want to be throwing away, particularly at this stage of the race with 2 and a little bit laps left to run. Bissett and Pritchard are having their own battle. Maybe hang back a little bit further just in case we see an incident like we saw at Tower Turn a little while ago with lap cars tripping over each other and people think they were letting each other through and then the miscommunications. You know, you don't really want to be putting yourself into that situation as a class leader right now.
Bissett, oh dear, that was late defending from Pritchard. It was just about in time. I think any later and he would have been seen to be blocking there. Bissett round the outside, and that's a very long way round as well. I don't think he's going to quite manage that, and the better run will go for the Porsche anyway, with that traction that it always has. 2 laps to go, by the way, in this race. Absolutely flown by once again, as they so often do in this series. Another look down the inside for Bissett. He can't get through. Glandon again just sits and watches effectively from 8th place towards turn 3, and there's no way past. Pritchard defending well, but how long can he keep this up for? He needs to do it for another 2 laps, otherwise Bessett's going to take that podium from him, and it's going to be a big fight.
It is. It's not going to be... Well, no one's going to lay down easily in this one, that's for sure. Pritchard just about trying to hang on here after the difficulties that he's faced in the last few laps. Bissett, just about getting his nose sniffing around, looking to try and find the move. Chris Glandon just sitting, waiting to see if anything unfolds in front of him, really at the back of this train. So Justin Bissett should really feel like he has free rein to go after. Is there contact? I think there wasn't to Cunningham corner. He's found the inside line though. Pritchard has to go the long way around. He'll have the inside line though, and he'll make sure that he stays ahead as they work their way towards Tower Turn. Is there a late send again? Justin Bissett shaping for it, but he can't quite find it. He's got a lap and a third to really make this move stick now.
Well, coming up into the final parts of this middle sector again. He's done another good job here, Zach Pritchard, to keep this attack at bay. And normally, the fact that Justin Bissett has an Acura right behind would be an advantage, but Bissett might just be able to park that with the fact it's a beneficiary class driver who is right in behind at the moment. Next in the beneficiary class, by the way, is Cameron Lackney, who's about 12 seconds behind these guys. There'll be no concern about a late pass here for Glandon. Here comes Bissett, inside line this time. He had to go all the way around the outside at Sunset last time round, and it didn't work. And it hasn't worked very much tonight, the outside run. But Bissett is trying to finally put this one to bed. The white flag waves, and Pritchard is under big pressure here. Inside line in towards turn 1, and again is able to keep the lead.
But he's taking a very tight line. Bassett, does he have a good run? No, he doesn't. Not around the outside. And towards turn 2 and 3 they go. Can he make any kind of sense? No. Chris Gland is going to sit and wait behind as well. And the 442 just has to twiddle his thumbs for a few more corners at least before he can have a go down at the hairpin. Is there a chance? Of course there's a chance. The gap is going to be under 0.2 of a second by the time they get onto the brakes. It just depends on how brave he's going to be. Is there anything in towards the hairpin? They make their way out towards the braking zone, and again, nothing going there at all, and they'll continue in 6th and 7th and 3rd and 4th into last.
Well, Smotherman has been very, very strong so far today. 7.5 seconds out front right now compared to the rest of the field, and it looks like it's going to be his day. Maybe the start of a bit of a championship charge as well if Ken Copeland isn't going to be here for all of the rounds. He's not even going to overtake Copeland in terms of points. That's how far he is in front at the moment. That's going to go to Martin Wallace, but Matt Smotherman is going to come through the final turn right now and win here from Sebring. The third round of the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League for Season 11 goes to Matt Smotherman, who had a big battle with Tyler Manning early on in this race. He fought his way past, he strategized his way to staying in the lead by some way, and he wins here in round 3. It's Mason Cardinal who finishes first in the open class meantime. 4th place overall after a big battle with Manning himself. Included battle scars for this Porsche with no front bumper on this one, but Cardinal wins here in the open class. And further down in the beneficiary class, Chris Glandon is going to finish behind Pritchard and Bassett, who are across the line together. Pritchard keeps the podium in a great battle there, and Chris Glandon ends up winning the beneficiary class.
Yeah, fantastic night for him. Fantastic night as well for Smotherman and for Mason Cardinal. We're seeing some newer names and some tighter championship points going into next week, and that's exactly what we want to see. Early stages of the season still. Drivers still feeling their way into a championship, and even if there is a driver that's missed a race or two, and we are only just about getting towards the fringes of them, these kinds of wins, these kinds of events for a driver really can give you a good confidence boost, and I think we're going to see a lot of that tonight reflected in what we see in 7 days' time.
It's the checker flag as everybody completes the race, most of them getting to the end of it as well. Actually, only a couple of retirements, which we'll get to in a moment further down the field. That's the final few crossing the line. That was the final battle in the field for 27th between Dan Fendick, John Hicks and Tyler Reid. A bit further down, 30 drivers, there was the last of them, crossing the line on the lead lap at the end of 40 minutes. It's Matt Smotherman who wins, though, by 8 seconds over Tyler Guillemet and Martin Wallace, rounding out the top 3. Mason Cardinal wins in the open class with Jacob Little and Zach Pritchard on the podium. Justin Bassett did his best to get onto that podium but couldn't manage it quite. Chris Glandon wins in the beneficiary class with Tyler Beeman and Tyler Manning rounding out the top 10. 11th went to Cameron Lackney, who was second in the beneficiary class, with Ian Carney in 12th. Carl Shelton, Thomas Godfrey and Nicholas Batista round out the top 15, with Louis Rios rounding out the top 3 in the beneficiary class. Rui Farina, Bradley Beeman, Francisco Vega and Jonathan Labby round out the top 20. Mitch Kerrick was 21st, ahead of Eric Knight. Nolan Uke next, ahead of Zach Merrill and Thad Weaver, running out the top 25. Aaron Mack, Dan Fendick, John Hicks, Tyler Reid in that battle I mentioned a few moments ago. Across the line next. Justin Wells, the last driver on the lead lap. 1 lap down for Gene Kelly, who had a tow back to pit lane in the first lap of the race. Cameron Burke, Philip Chartier, Jacob Gilday. 3 down for Patrick Nolan, Andrew Cooper and Rodney Campbell. Dave Bell 4 laps down. Brandon Mateo, unfortunately, did not get to the finish and was the only driver not to do so. We will wait and see whether we get joined by a few people here in a moment in the interview room. It does look like we are getting people joining us again. Unfortunately, on my Discord, doesn't seem to be the same for everybody, but on my Discord, the interview room is absolutely miles away, so it takes me a moment to move people around into our booth. But I don't think I can actually either, so I'm going to have to wait for a producer or you, Darryl, if you're able to do it. For somebody to do it, unfortunately. But anyway, we'll have a chat in a moment to the top 3 beneficiary class drivers. We always hear from Louis Rios, at least we have done in the first couple of rounds. and he finished again third in this round here today. With Tanner Masters not here, Louis Rios will probably take the championship lead. But anyway, Louis, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Thanks for chatting to us once again. Third place for you here tonight at Sebring. I must say, we didn't see too much of you tonight. How did you find Sebring?
Yeah, tough track. It felt really physical. Pretty wore out right now.
Possibly the most physical of the season so far. I don't know, but I mean, well, I'll ask you: was it seen by you as a sort of a big opportunity, maybe to gain some points on Tanner Masters, who wasn't here today? Is that how you saw it coming into today?
Yeah, I didn't know that he was gonna miss today. So when I saw that he wasn't gridding up, I was like, whoa, I guess I'll get a big chance to pass him here. But yeah, unexpected.
In terms of championship points, you will have done, but you know there's plenty of other strong drivers in this series as well. I mean, Cameron Lackney finished ahead of you today, of course, as I'm sure you know, and finished in the first two races as well, so that'll be quite close between the two of you. How do you feel about your chances in this season, 3 rounds in?
I feel pretty good where I'm at right now. I definitely just got to stay a little bit more consistent and maintain the pace that I'm kind of showing right now, and just race a little bit cleaner, because I definitely fell off a bit there after the pit. Well,
thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us as always, Louis. Congratulations on finishing third in the beneficiary class here tonight, and we'll, I'm sure, see you again next week.
Yeah, thank you guys so much, and thank you to Opmo, and thank you to the sponsors. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks very much, Louis Rios there, third place in the beneficiary class here tonight from Sebring. We'll hold on for a moment, wait to see if any other podium drivers will join us here tonight from Sebring. But Darragh, it was a good third race to the season. I guess very different, really, when you've got the championship leader, not necessarily championship leader, but you know, someone who's dominated the first 2 races so comprehensively. To not be here, it really gave a different feel to this third round of the championship.
Yeah, and I think it meant that there were a couple of drivers who really felt that this was a good chance for them to maybe jump on the opportunity, and a couple have clearly done so, and they've given themselves a good footing and a good basis to continue onwards in this championship as we move through into the next few weeks. Rebel Ring next week is going to be a track that it's not really technical in its nature. It really is based on how well you can race, and again, I think that's going to be another target for a lot of drivers that they'll circle and think they can get some good points at.
Well, big thanks, of course, to everyone who's been tuned in here tonight. It doesn't look like, unfortunately, we're going to get any of other beneficiary class drivers to join us, unfortunately, for a chat. So that will be just about it from us here tonight. We'll be back again next week from the Red Bull Ring, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, as always, September 23rd. Our only European round of the Operation Motorsport, eMotorsport iRacing League comes to you next week here live on RaceSpot TV. And as I mentioned, we'll be live here every Tuesday night from now until the end of October with this championship. See who becomes champion of season 11. Once again, big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in tonight. I've been Ewan Deliri alongside Darragh Thacker with Ramiro Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras. We'll see you in 1 week's time for the European leg of this championship from the Red Bull Ring. But for now, from us, from Sebring, it's goodbye.